Night falls over the plains of the Ganga, torches flicker. Armies stand facing each other, but this is not a single battlefield and not a single war. This is a world made of rival cities, competing kings, and shifting alliances. And the expectation is simple. Ancient India was peaceful, spiritual, and distant from the brutal politics of war. It wasn't. Under the calm surface of philosophy and ritual, there was a hard struggle for power. Cities fortified themselves, armies professionalized, diplomats schemed. For almost 2 centuries, northern India was shaped not by serenity, but by organized conflict. This is the story of the Mahajanapada Wars, and how war built the world that later empires inherited. This channel tells stories of history the way it really unfolded, calmly, systematically, without myth or exaggeration. We look at decisions, structures, and consequences because history was not created by magic moments, but by patterns people could not escape at first glance. The Mahajanapadas are described as 16 great states, a list in a textbook. Names spoken quickly and forgotten even faster: Magadha, Kosala, Avanti, Vatsa, Kuru, Panchala. But here's the real question. This is not just about ancient kingdoms fighting for land. This is about why India did not remain a patchwork of equal city-states forever. It is about why one region rose, while others vanished. It is about why empire became possible at all. Why did one cluster of states survive and dominate, while others, older and richer, faded into footnotes? To answer that, we have to slow down. We have to enter a world before Ashoka, before Chandragupta, before Maurya, a world where the outcome was not guaranteed. 2,500 years ago, northern India was not a single civilization with one voice. It was a mosaic. From the Himalayan foothills to the plains of Bihar, settlements had matured into fortified capitals. Each was called a Janapada, the land of a people. Some grew into Mahajanapadas, the great realms. They were not kingdoms in the modern sense. Some were monarchies ruled by a single king. Others were republics governed by assemblies of nobles. Their power came not from territory alone, but from control of trade routes, access to the Ganges, and the ability to mobilize people for war and agriculture. The pressure on these states was constant. Population was rising. Iron tools expanded farmland. New cities needed resources. And the Ganga Valley had become the prize everyone watched. Control the valley, control grain, control trade, control the future. Doctrines like Buddhism and Jainism did not emerge in isolation from this world. They emerged inside it amid questions of violence, wealth, duty, and order. But while thinkers debated ethics, rulers calculated logistics. Walls grew higher. Roads were built straighter. Taxes became more systematic, and gradually, something important changed. War became predictable, not chaos, not endless raiding, but structured conflict between organized states. The turning point was not a single battle, it was a shift in mindset. Earlier conflicts were often about raids, cattle, and prestige, but as wealth became tied to land and urban centers, war became strategic. Armies were no longer seasonal militias, they became standing forces, infantry supported by war elephants and chariots, trained to operate in formations. Diplomacy changed too. States no longer fought alone. They built alliances, broke them, tested each other's resolve, and watched carefully for weakness. Among the 16, 4 stood out as power centers: Kosala in the north, Magadha in the east, Avanti in the west, Vatsa near the Yamuna. Each had resources, each had ambitions, but they did not face the same constraints. Magadha, for example, was not initially the most prestigious. It was seen as somewhat peripheral compared to older Vedic centers like Kuru and Panchala. Yet Magadha possessed something the others did not: geography that rewarded discipline and administration. Its rivers protected its flanks. Its forests provided timber and elephants. Its proximity to rich iron deposits gave it a military edge. But resources alone do not win wars. The real difference was decisions. Magadha's rulers invested in systems, centralized tax collection, stable bureaucracy, and fortifications that were difficult to breach. Instead of chasing glory through endless campaigns, they built the capacity to sustain war over time. Other states often relied on tradition and noble status. Magadha relied on organization. That is where the Mahajanapada Wars became more than simple clashes. They became tests of which political model could survive pressure. With so many rival states, tension was inevitable. But conflict did not always explode into open war. It simmered first. Kosala and Magadha maneuvered around each other diplomatically, sometimes intermarrying, sometimes threatening. Republics like the Vayagi Confederation managed power through councils, showing restraint and collective decision-making, which in turn required patience rather than impulsive military adventurism. Every ruler faced the same dilemma: expand too aggressively, and risk uniting enemies against you. Expand too slowly, and risk being swallowed. The wars that followed were therefore cautious and strategic, not reckless charges. Sieges replaced raids, blockades replaced duels. Negotiations replaced simple conquest. Leaders had to decide when to wait, when to strike, whom to appease, and when to break promises. These choices mattered more than battlefield heroics. One decision stands out as a pattern across the era. The strongest states focused on rivers and roads rather than simply land. They did not just conquer neighbors, they cut them off from trade. They captured crossings, they targeted capitals instead of fields. War was becoming economic. As conflicts escalated, outcomes began to diverge. Vatsa, once prosperous, struggled to maintain its power base when internal strife weakened its elite. Avanti, though militarily formidable, found itself stretched between rivals on multiple fronts. Some republics maintained internal discipline but lacked the capacity for large-scale expansion. Magadha, by contrast, kept tightening its system. Rulers like Bimbisara and Ajatashatru did not rely on personal charisma alone. They reorganized administration, improved fortress construction, and integrated conquered territories rather than simply plundering them. Elephants, rare elsewhere, became central to Magadha's army, powerful not just as weapons, but as psychological force multipliers capable of breaking formations and walls. But even here, the crucial story is not hero worship, it is about patience. Years of incremental pressure broke alliances aligned against Magadha. The Vajigi Confederation, which relied on collective governance, faced the challenge of responding quickly in crisis. Magadha exploited this slowness with sustained siege warfare and political isolation rather than dramatic decisive battles. War, in this world, rewards discipline over bravery, and the results became clear. One by one, rival states either submitted, were absorbed, or became dependent. When the dust settled, northern India was no longer a level field of equal powers. It had a core. From that core, the Mauryan Empire would later rise. But that empire was not a sudden miracle, it was the logical consequence of the Mahajanapada Wars. The outcome was not just territorial, changed how power was imagined. The wars proved that large-scale centralized states could function, that administration could be systematized, that revenue could sustain standing armies, and that diplomacy could shape outcomes as much as fighting. This shaped law codes. It shaped infrastructure. It shaped the idea that empire could impose order across the subcontinent. Trade networks expanded under unified control. Standardization of measures spread. Ideas traveled faster. Philosophies like Buddhism gained imperial patrons only because an empire existed to spread them. Without the earlier wars, that possibility would never have emerged. Even the spiritual image of India, the land of dharma, debate, and renunciation, stands on a foundation built by a disciplined political organization and military consolidation. War shaped the environment into which spiritual leaders spoke. So what do we take from this? The Mahajanapada Wars are often remembered as background noise before the rise of the Marathas, but they were not background, they were the test. They showed which systems could survive stress. They showed that discipline beats impulse. They showed that geography and administration matter as much as personal bravery. History did not change because a single hero appeared. It changed because states learned how to manage conflict over generations. The world that emerged afterward, the age of Chandragupta, of Ashoka, of imperial administration, was not inevitable. It was constructed step by step on military roads, fortified cities, and strategic patience. War shaped ancient India not just through destruction, but through organization. And once that organization existed, the map of the subcontinent would never be the same again. If you enjoyed this exploration of how systems and decisions shaped ancient India, tell me which moment you want to see next. A forgotten republic, a decisive siege, or the rise of the Mauryan machine. Like the video if you want more stories told this way. Subscribe if you want history explained calmly, without myth, and with respect for how complex it truly was. Thank you for watching.